My guest in this episode of the Misaal podcast is changing how Pakistanis invest. His startup allows investors in Pakistan to invest in the US stock market. His name is Farooq Tirmizi and he's a co-founder of Elphinstone. With as little as $100, you too can invest in the US stock market from Pakistan. Let's listen in. Welcome to the Misaal podcast. Farooq, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. Zahid, thank you for having me.
I was really excited, of course, when I learned about what you're building, helping investors in Pakistan invest in the US stock market. I invest in the stock market, have deep interest in it. I have an accounting background. I do taxes for a living and all those things. So would love to learn more about, what you're building, but let's just get started first with a quick introduction. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what problem are you trying to solve with Elphinstone?
I have a finance background. I've worked in broadly speaking, the finance industry for pretty much my whole career, starting in 2007, been through a bunch of different market cycles. I've worked in both Pakistan and the US, and I've had a chance to see the contrast between the two countries. Really, the big problem that we're trying to solve with Elphinstone is helping people in Pakistan invest their money and making investing as simple as possible. More specifically, trying to make it simple to the point where you do not need to learn anything about investment or finance. You can just, sign up for our app and start using our services with as little knowledge needed prior to you starting up as possible. So that's really what we're trying to do. So we want to own the full spectrum of the investment needs of the average Pakistani.
How did you come up with this conclusion that there might be a need for a product like yours?
Really started off with me playing around with the fact that I had worked in the US. That was my first job. I started working in 2007, gone through the whole financial crisis in the US. And then I moved back to Pakistan and I started working at a mutual fund company, and where I noticed that even the people working at that mutual fund company didn't really understand its product and didn't really invest in it. And that got me thinking, okay, this is clearly something that people tend to not realize. First of all, that for all its ups and downs, Pakistan is actually a pretty great place to invest. And that secondly, there are these instruments that you can use to make your life easier. You don't need to become an investing expert by yourself. You don't need to have a brokerage account and trade individual stocks. You can do this through pre-existing funds that are already diversified for you. And that's, so yeah, effectively, I've been obsessed with this problem since about 2009. And trying to figure out how to solve it.
What are some of the major misconceptions that people or investors in Pakistan might have about investing in the US market or abroad?
Most people think it's illegal, which it's not. It's not illegal under American law. It's not illegal under Pakistani law. It is explicitly given legal permission, both under US and Pakistani law. You are allowed to do so. You are allowed to have an investment account of your own. You can declare it on your FBR tax returns. There are some restrictions on it, like there's a regulatory structure that governs it. But you can have an investment account of your own, and you can put your own money to work in the US markets, and neither the government of Pakistan nor the United States has a problem with it.
You recently launched, so you got a lot of feedback. So what's been the number one feedback, and what are you trying to do to if it's a feedback about like a feature or like something else, what are you trying to do about that?
Number one feedback we got is, why is sign up so long? And unfortunately, the answer to that is a lot of it is stuff that we are required to ask under US regulations. KYC information and all, it's one of those things that we're required to ask. What we are trying to do is make it a little bit simpler and a little bit easier. There are a few questions that are potentially optional that you should be able to skip, and we're gonna change that process and make it a little bit simpler. A lot of people are asking sort of some more fundamental questions, things like, so what does it mean to be invested? Like, how do I get my returns? And, how am I investing my money? Like, what does it mean to be invested? What does it mean to have returns? What does that look like? How is that going to be how's that going to show up in my account, etc. So some of the folks are asking some basic questions. Other people, and I think we need to do a bit of a better job in terms of advertising just how powerful our product is. They tend to sort of ask us questions about, like, what if I don't know about investing? Well, we've got a robo-advisory component for that. So you don't need to make the investment decisions on your own. You can just simply select a level of risk that you are willing to take, and it'll explain to you what it means to take a certain level of risk. And based on that, it'll give you an asset allocation for you. It'll give you a fully Islamic investment portfolio if that's what you want. It'll give you a conventional investment portfolio if that's what you want. But if you want to trade stocks on your own, you can do that. And that's something that I think wasn't immediately obvious to a lot of people when they started signing up for our product. And that's something that we're trying to sort of emphasize. There are some people who want the ability to trade stocks individually. And you can, in fact, do that.
All the feedback that you've received so far looks like investor education seems to be like, up there or one of the things people want to learn about. Why do you think that's the case? Because I would not ask a stockbroker or someone who's helping me buy and sell stocks how to invest. Like, there's so many resources. Why do you think there's this gap between like people not wanting to learn about it on their own and going to a broker and trying to figure out what to invest in?
I think people in Pakistan are still new to the market by and large, new to the concept of investing. And frankly, a lot of people don't even know where to begin. What question to ask as the most basic one. And so they just ask whatever comes to mind based on the product that they see in front of them. And I think that's kind of the point of a product like ours existing. It's to spark an interest in people and try to figure out, okay, look, Pakistan at this point is the third largest population of freelancers who can earn in USD on these global platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, etc. TopTal. There's some people who are making some very, very good money sitting in Pakistan and in US dollars, and they don't have the ability to save that in US dollars. And so we created this opportunity. So all they need to do is understand that simple concept. I'm earning in dollars, I can save in dollars. Then they sort of like download the app, they can start using it, and then the questions that come to their mind, they ask. We answer as much as possible. We're putting up a blog where we answer a lot of these questions. And we're going to try to make it as integrated in-app as possible so that people can have those questions answered as they go through the app journey. And yeah, just make it simple for them. It's really just as a broad market, we're still unfamiliar with the concept of investing.
Well, one thing that I just was thinking about it the other day, that right now it's like you would say it's the bear market in a way. So starting something that involves investing in the markets when it's the bear market, that's very difficult because when the stock market is going up, everyone seems to be like, there and talking about their portfolio and like, no one cares. But when it's a bear market, people have different kinds of questions and, their risk appetite is very low. So you picked an interesting time to launch the product and everything. So was there some sort of a reasoning behind it where you're like, we might not get enough volume, but we will get a chance to, see how our product works in people's hands?
Well, first of all, we're growing 30% week on week. So it's pretty rapid growth even now. So that's been good. I actually think this is one of the best times to start investing because, sure, will we get like the largest number of people investing? No, but what we will get is all of our early adopters will be buying into US equities pretty close to the bottom of the market. And so a year from now, all of them are going to be sitting on profits. And so that creates an incredible feedback loop of people being able to say, hey, not only did I invest through this app and it works, but I've actually made some good money off of it. So that I think is an incredible feedback loop that we expect to have over the next year or so. That's the first thing. The second thing is the value proposition we have is not the same as the value proposition of a Charles Schwab or a Betterment or a Wealthfront. Pakistanis right now are a little scared. It's a bit of a terrifying time looking at the macroeconomy. I'm as big a Pakistan bull as they come. And frankly, even I'm a little bit shaken. by what I'm seeing in the Pakistan macroeconomy right now. It's hard to keep the faith about the Pakistan economy. And given that fact, anyone who has US dollars being told, hey, by the way, I can keep your account, I can keep your money in an SIPC insured account in your own name, insured up to $500,000, where you can invest that money in something as safe as US Treasuries or investment grade sukuks, for those who prefer the Islamic options. Or if I feel like the US market has bottomed out, which we believe it is close to if it hasn't already, then I can also invest it in stocks. And I can basically keep my money in the US for as long as I need to, for as long as this period of uncertainty in Pakistan lasts. And when I need to withdraw it back to Pakistan, I'll still be able to do that. That's really the value proposition we're offering right now. It's a safe haven for US dollars that is not controlled by a Pakistani financial institution, and therefore subject to the whims of, frankly, a government that doesn't seem to have its bearings right now.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of gridlock, and it doesn't seem like anyone has people have plans to, contest elections or have elections soon, but there's no plan for economy. That's what I feel. And there's a lot of infighting happening. So it's an interesting set of events that are happening in Pakistan, because I would have thought that within a year, things would have been moved, like they would have moved on from, basically fighting about who should be in the power and talk about the economy. But it doesn't seem like there is any consensus on moving forward with that. And of course, the populace is what ends up suffering. But anyways, so you mentioned a little bit about your growth, right? So how big is your team, and what does that, aspect of things look like? Are you building your technology in-house? Because I know you back in the back end, you're using Alpaca API. So how did that work out? Because I know you are personally not a technical person. So did you build your own team? Like, how did that process work out for you?
I'm not, but my co-founder Rosetta very much is. He's an incredible tech mind, one of the best I've ever encountered in my life, and truly a remarkable leader, not just in terms of his technical abilities, but also in his ability to lead a team. He's a really fantastic guy, and so I'm just very, very fortunate and lucky to have him. He's based out of Karachi. So we have a Karachi-based team. We're about 10 people in the company. So we are building the product ourselves. We're obviously utilizing Alpaca Securities, which is our brokerage partner. So they offer the actual sort of trading ability. We offer the investment advisory capabilities. And between the two of us, we're able to offer this product. How the product came about in terms of the partnership with Alpaca is kind of interesting. So this is October 24th of this past year. October 24th, 2022 is when the FATF took Pakistan off the gray list. That was a Friday. That Monday, I was in Las Vegas attending Money 2020, which is one of the largest fintech conferences in North America. And I went around talking to a variety of brokerage firms, some of whom had previously not been willing to do business with Pakistan because they felt like they did not want to take on the regulatory risk of doing business with a country that was on the FATF gray list. But that morning, boy, everyone knew that Pakistan had been taken off the gray list and was very much open for business. And we pretty much struck a deal right then and there. The first working day after Pakistan came off the gray list, we struck a deal with Alpaca Securities, and we just started building right away. And we said, okay, this is something we want to launch. We know Pakistanis will want this. By that time, the rupee was already, on the rocks, as it were, and it's been a tough time. And so the exchange rate and the desire to keep dollars and keep dollars invested ideally outside Pakistan was a front of mind concern for a lot of middle class Pakistanis. And so we thought, okay, look, this is a great opportunity. Let's at least build something that will provide that peace of mind to people.
Well, that's a great story and how it worked out, because I've been questioned a few times, like, okay, so fine, Pakistan is off the list and all those things, what happened, so what happened? It's not about the qarze, it's about, like, having a standing, like an equal standing in the markets, where people don't look at you as a country that's on some sort of a list. So that really helps. Now I have a story to tell them about you, so that's really great. So I mean, you talked a little bit about that, you have a team in Pakistan, and you are, of course, spending time between the US and Pakistan. So how does that work out for you? And what are, like, some of the tips, like, that people, other founders can, you can advise them how to manage such teams between two different time zones? And how do you manage your workload, as well as how do you lead a team?
I'm going to answer the question in terms of what I do. I don't want it to seem like I'm giving anybody any advice, because I have no idea what can make someone successful. I can only tell you what has worked for us. What has worked for us is a couple of different things. One, there are two co-founders on our team, me and Uzair. I split my time between the US and Pakistan, mainly because I have a green card and I need to maintain US residency. So I spend a majority of the year in the US, but then the rest of it I spend in Pakistan. Uzair spends 100% of his time in Pakistan. He's based in Karachi. Everyone in our team, everyone else besides me, is based in Karachi. And so that helps, first of all, having one co-founder there. Secondly, the thing that I've done is we did something called office hours on Zoom, where I open up a Zoom channel. It's and the link to it is pegged to it's pinned on a Slack channel of ours called Office Hours, and it's open for 2 hours a day. Like, it's literally just open. Anyone can pop in, press that link, pop in, ask a question, have a conversation with me, and then leave. Like, it really does feel a bit like when I'm actually back in the physical office in Karachi. Someone is walking by my office, they remember something that they wanted to talk to me about, they pop in, ask me the question, and then they leave. It's a pretty good sort of replica for the virtual world. We found it kind of works. And what it also does is it gives me sort of time where I'm connected to the team, and also time when I can work alone and on the sort of like the deep focus work that I need to work on for my end of the work.
So I know you mentioned about your co-founder, but besides your co-founder, when you were hiring for your team, was it difficult? Was it easy to sell someone on, like, joining a startup? Like, has the culture changed so far?
Couple of different things. My first hire was somebody I knew and somebody I'd worked with in the past in a different capacity. Persuading her to join was took a little bit of time, but she she had a good working relationship with me in the past, and so she said, okay, you know what, I'm willing to take a chance on something like this. And so that was the first hire. The first technical hire we made took about 4 months. I really took my time, and I'm a firm believer in this is a strategy that has worked out for me for I think 3 times now, which is really take your time with the first hire. And it's going to feel like you're wasting your time by doing that. But the first hire is really, really important. It ends up being important because it ends up being the thing that sets your culture. And actually, like, later on, I realized that it's actually advice that a lot of other startup leaders have given others as well, which is hire really smart people. Which in Pakistan takes some time to find, because finding the right combination of a smart person who's willing to take a risk with you and has a good work ethic takes some time. But then you find them. It takes some time, and then you find them. And then all you do is you say, hey, know any other smart people who would like to join us? And then, they'll come in with a recommendation for the next one. And then what you've got is a culture that is now set of smart people who are interested in taking risks and like to work hard. And I think we've been very lucky with that. I do want to especially call out Habib University in Karachi for producing exceptional talent. Our first engineer was from Habib University, and then therefore the majority of our engineering talent is actually from Habib University. Really, really great institution, seems to be doing a phenomenal job in preparing its graduates for the workforce. Not just in terms of technical ability, but really just a solid attitude and work ethic. We've found, at least so far. So we've been lucky on that score.
Well, that's excellent. So you were also part of Y Combinator at some point, right? So how was that experience? And, Y Combinator, of course, is like, it's quite a prestigious name when it comes to accelerators. And so was there something that, made you apply to Y Combinator, that you were looking for that one specific thing out of that experience? Or was it just like, hey, I'm building a product that I feel like, if I get accepted to Y Combinator, it will open certain doors for me?
I knew I wanted to start this company, and this specific idea I knew I wanted to work on for quite some time before I actually started working on it. And I have the good fortune of having gone to both a high school and college that has produced a lot of people who have been successful in the world of tech and investing, and venture capital investing. So this must have been September 2019, which is just about a year before I started working on the startup full time. I flew out to San Francisco, and I met a few friends of mine who have had success in the startup world, both as startup founders as well as early employees at startups that have done well. And I met a friend of mine from college who was an incredibly successful venture capitalist. And my friend who's the venture capitalist, I was sort of talking to her and said, look, I know what I want to build. I don't know how to build a tech company around it. I know the product I want to build. I don't know how to build the tech company around it. And she said, you need to do Y Combinator. It's built for people like you. It's built for people like you who know what they want to see in the world, but don't know the mechanics of creating a company and being a founder of an institution that is trying to do something hard like that. And she said, you need to do Y Combinator. This is Catherine Boyle, who at the time was at, I believe, at General Catalyst and is now at Andreessen Horowitz. She's a partner there. That advice stuck in my head. And so we applied for Y Combinator 3 times prior to getting in for the batch of winter 2022, which is when we actually went through the process. And it has been a game changer for us in the sense that we really do feel like we have both Uzair and I feel like we have a much better handle on how to be a startup founder. What are the kinds of things you need to think about? How to do a hiring process, how to run a sales process, how to have a process with respect to product development and things like that. It's really and it's just, it connects you to a community of startup founders who are going through similar things at a similar stage in their startup journeys, and so that's been helpful as well.
So what would you say, like, you're learning so far? Like, what's the biggest learning so far from whatever you have tried to build, marketed, anything with team management? Like, what's been your biggest learning so far?
What do you think you're going to start off with as the first thing is not necessarily let me put it this way. The biggest thing that we have learned is that the perfect thing you have in your head doesn't need to exist right away. That it's okay to start off with something smaller and something that has fewer features and fewer capabilities. It's also okay for people to access your first product with a lot of bugs in it. That's a hard lesson to learn because we're used to thinking of, the first impression is the last impression. You had better make a really, really great first impression. And what you need to understand is the kind of person who takes a risk on a new company's product is the kind of person who is willing to be a little bit forgiving, and is going to be part of your process. Your first customers are actually, they're almost like your founding team. They have that level of affinity for you, and they will help your product improve in about that important way. So that's a hard lesson to learn. And I know a lot of people sort of talk about it, and intuitively we used to say, oh, it's okay if we put it out, but then we wouldn't actually take the actions that would put it out early. And that's a hard lesson to learn and do.
Yeah, I think it's a Reid Hoffman quote, right? Like, if you're not embarrassed by the first time you release your product,
I think it sounds
you've
about right.
released
Yeah.
it too late or something like that. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So great, great, great. So where do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years?
We think that this US investing product is a pretty fantastic sort of first foray into the market. Actually, we already had another product before this, which is we looked at regulations in Pakistan for retirement saving and realized that Pakistan, like most countries in Asia, requires employers to provide some form of retirement savings benefit to their employees. Unlike most countries in Asia, however, Pakistan actually has regulations that are more similar to the US than what is the norm in our region. So, a retirement savings plan in Pakistan can look and feel like the 401k in the United States, based on what the law allows, not what is common practice, but what the law allows. And so we said, okay, this is something that we absolutely want to do. We want to create an individualized, customizable, tax-advantaged corporate retirement plan for middle-class Pakistanis who live and work in Pakistan. And we think that that's going to be a great place for them to start investing. That's a product that already exists. It's deployed in a handful of companies in Pakistan already. Baikia is one of our clients. Marcus Technology is another tech startup, is one of our clients. A couple of other companies are some of our clients. Engro, on a non-exclusive basis, has allowed us to offer this to some of their employees for their retirement savings. So we've got some clients. We really want to develop that product. We think that has the potential to become not just change the investing experience for the average Pakistani working inside Pakistan, but also transform the very nature of the financial system of Pakistan, because it'll really redirect investment in a way that I think hasn't been done in Pakistan before, and can truly transform what our financial institutions and what our financial system looks like. So that is going to be the biggest thing that we go after. We think we can do that for private sector companies, and we really do think that is a pretty big opportunity that is something that we want to address.
So one last question before I let you go. You used to write about financial markets, startups for profit back in the day. You, of course, got a lot of exposure to startups, and of course, being in Pakistan, building a startup yourself. I just want to get your thoughts on what do you think about the current state of the ecosystem?
It's hard to tell. I think this is an interesting phase for our ecosystem, because money is a lot harder to come by than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. And so the kind of business models that are going to work are going to be interesting. And I think it's going to be a bit of a shaking out period, so to speak. Broadly speaking, I think this is actually the fun time, even though, boy, it does not feel that way. But what it's doing is it's forcing us, all of us who are working in startups, to think about the sustainability of our business models, and to really compete against incumbents, to compete against existing business models, in a much more thoughtful way. I think we're all going to end up being better for it, but boy, is it going to suck before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be like a pre-seed or like write angel checks, family and friend rounds.
Yeah.
But I really don't think there is any Series B or Series C type investing happening in Pakistan anytime soon. I don't invest in startups, but I recently did write a very small check.
Is it?
But even before that, starting like I would say in January, since January, I've just been receiving emails about like, hey, I am raising money. Would you be interested in learning more about it and all those things? And I don't even invest. Like I'm not out there. But so that was very interesting to me because that's never happened before. And of course I write about startups, but I mean, I've never said I invest in startups or anything. So I was really surprised. People are just saying, hey, it doesn't hurt to, mass email people, see if anyone wants to invest, and people are doing that.
Yeah, look, I think people are trying their luck with starting as earlier stage companies. Do we really need the large Series Bs, etc.? I don't know. it's possible that we'll just end up being a different kind of ecosystem where maybe we don't go for the large Series Bs and maybe we go for something that's smaller, but still ends up working out. I think, for example, I think Finja would have loved a Series B, I think, based on what they raised. It felt like it was a Series B that didn't quite work out. I think the investors who passed are, missed an opportunity, but at the same time, I think Finja's going to be fine. I think they're going to do great. And so I think there are some companies even at that stage that are missing out that I think are going to do really well. And I think maybe not being able to raise that big round might in the long run not be a bad thing for them.
Personally, I do feel like as long as it's B2B play, it has a chance, like a fairly decent chance of success if it's a B2B play. Because if it's a B2C, it's going to be very difficult given, they are raising money in US dollars, spending or earning money in Pakistani rupees, which is not, helping with the whole devaluation and stuff. So it's going to be a big challenge and difficult to, get to a point where they can raise follow-on rounds.
But again, you should not have, let me put it to you this way. Our goal is we want to get to a point where we hit cash flow break even and then maybe do a Series A, hopefully, that is growth equity for us. And then frankly, after that, we hope to never raise a round again until the IPO. Like, why set yourself up as a business that constantly needs those investing rounds? That's what I'm saying. I really think that startup founders are going to find themselves in a position where they start thinking of themselves as a business where, you raise a few rounds of investing like earlier, up to a Series A maybe. And then after that, if you never raise a Series B, you should be fine. You should be you should put yourself in a position where you're fine if you never raise a Series B, I think, in Pakistan.
Because I think Zameen, or it might be Rosie or someone, one of the old OGs startups, I don't think they raised anything after Series B or Series C. So they just completely stopped.
Yeah. Might have been Rosie because Zameen definitely had quite a few rounds. I think they went up to like F and G. I think something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it became kind of a sort of an umbrella corporation for a lot of different entities in the Middle East and stuff. So
Zameen really laid the groundwork for us, man. Like they went through the pain and figured things out, and before everyone else has been able to follow in their footsteps. So really grateful to those guys.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Misaal podcast. Amazing learning about your journey so far and what you're building. Really excited that you mentioned that you're going to IPO. So I'm going to hold you to that. You have to IPO now and whatever time frame. And best of luck with everything.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Misaal podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and will thank me by writing a review or sharing it on social media. Make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks again. See you soon.